what happened in PEGIDA, what happened in London, Ontario. And I'm going to tell you how this is a lie. So I'm going to see if I can get Helen's number on here. And just as I'm doing this, I'm going to see if I can punch her number in and have it call. Thought she was going to call in, but I don't have her on yet. So now I have to go through my phone and look. But Helen is somebody who drives me a lot of places and helps out. Part of the reason, truthfully, is I do not drive. And Helen is also one of the leaders of the 912 group here in Rochester, New York. Her work as a leader changed a lot of what's happening in making things better for us. And here she comes, I believe. I think that's her. Okay, so without much ado, I'm going to read the article. I'm going to pull Helen. Okay, I believe Helen, is this you? Hello, Helen?
This is me.
Okay.
This is me.
So great. So I don't know if you wanted to share your last name or not, but I'm going to read the article and I don't know if you've seen this yet. So I want to read this article that they put in the Canada News. Now we were told in Canada one thing that many people did not know, and if you're not following Canada News or anything, the CBC is a paid-for government news site. So
yes.
Here's the truth here's what they posted. Now, Helen and I will tell you the truth. They wrote, 2 people arrested at anti-Islam rally Saturday. 100 gathered at City Hall. CBC News posted, and this is September 24th, they posted this. London police arrested 2 people on Saturday during an anti-Islam rally in front of City Hall, which saw about 100 people, including rally participants and people staging a counter-protest. The group that organized rally, Patriots of Canada Against the Islamization of the West, PEGIDA, began the protest at Victoria Park before marching down to City Hall. Is that true, Helen?
No, we all met at City Hall.
Okay. Was there at least 100 of their side?
No. I was trying to guess. I was guessing 30. Somebody else said 40, like 30 to 40. That was my guess.
Yeah. I'm close to your guess. Mark was saying 50. At the most, I'll say between 40 and 60 because some of them were still hiding, I think.
Well, some were some were peaceful at the park. Don't forget about those folks. They were peaceful, but the ones in front of us that were not so peaceful, I would say around 30 to 40.
This is insane. So they're not even in the pictures. Oh, here's the kicker, Helen. The pictures on this site were pictures from the Antifa perspective. They didn't put any Antifa signs because they were behind them. That's the important issue here. So the people who took the picture, who were working to put this piece of garbage out, actually worked with Antifa. There's no other explanation for how that picture was taken.
Do you know what sign was being shown? Because I don't remember any signs being, horrible or, very cruel or anything like that.
No. The Antifa flag was there. They had communist.
Right on our side.
Yeah. Well, on our side, we had the flag of Israel. We had.
Yes.
We didn't really have. I think we had the flag of Israel and a few posters telling what Islam really wants. That's about it. On their side, they called us Nazis.
They had.
They called us racist.
The Canadian Communist Party, and Antifa signs all over the place in the flag, and just a lot of hate.
That's what it was. Overwhelming hate of God bless you. You can't share the truth, and it was kind of scary in the fact that they would not let you talk. That was the scary part.
Right.
And
we never experienced. At least I've never experienced that before. I mean, you and I have been to rallies. I've been to a bunch of rallies in Washington D.C. and New York, and at least you might argue with someone, but then you walk away. I mean, everything's fine. This was different. This was my first time with somebody actually pointing their finger in my face, saying, you.
I mean, I tried to give a 15-minute speech, and in truth, I think I might have spoken for 5 or 10 minutes. I didn't expect to have. I couldn't be heard. I had a megaphone, and I still could not be heard. So I saw drums. I saw these big, huge horns that you'd get from like state fairs.
Tambourines, bongos, just anything pots, pans, frying pans. I mean, anything that they can make a loud noise with, they did that. And plus screaming, a lot of screaming.
Oh my gosh, that was to me that was probably the most annoying. So the truth is, we'll say this about Antifa: the biggest, the best value they have in the world is they are annoying.
They
could be. They could create a little bit of fear because they have been known to hurt people. Now I gave my speech, and shortly thereafter we started walking. How was that from your perspective? You were a couple steps ahead of me. Were you scared at all?
Well, let me tell you. Okay, when Jen wanted to start marching. Somebody asked me, Helen, could you stay back and watch the equipment? And I'm like, what? I'm like, no. And so, my face must have told them, I don't want to stay here by myself. But really, I grabbed you. I kept telling, come on, Paul, come on. I grabbed the tripod that you had, and I ran behind Jen, and I put my hand on her back, and she kind of turned around, and I go, it's me. She goes, okay. And I figured I want to be by the leader because the leader had more police around her. And but even with the police that we had, and you were walking, I was helping with the banner, and you were behind me. I prayed. Paul, this is the first time I actually was afraid. I mean, I don't want to say, I'm coward. I'm going to coward now and not go to any more protests or anything. But I actually said from the Bible, the Psalms, though through I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. I prayed, dear Father. I prayed. I go, Jesus, please help us. These people do not want to know your name. They do not. I mean, if you remember, they were talking about the Old Testament. Well, okay, but let's talk about the New Testament. Let's talk about Christ. Let's talk about, love and peace. And they wanted nothing to do with that. So all we were hearing behind us was a lot of your Nazis, your fascists, your scum. They were also, they didn't bother me, but they bothered you. I remember they bothered you, and you told the police officer that they were in your personal space. And the police officer really didn't do much.
Yeah, he says, I'm here to keep the peace. Well, if they're invading your personal space, I mean, I don't know. To me, they're asking to get hit, and I have patience to a level. If I wasn't a special ed teacher used to dealing with some of this, I may have lost it. But I'll tell you, they were pressing it.
Well, I think when I think our group went one way and Mark's group went the other way. You know how they made the wrong turn? I think they had more of the violent ones because there was a lot more girls in that group, at least, and they were bumping the women on our side. And I'm sure they were terrified or at least, upset. So it was scary. It was scary. It was my first time ever in something like this where you are surrounded, just about surrounded, and you had cars pass you with people yelling out the window, saying, shame on you. And he's like, well, okay.
I didn't catch that part.
Oh, yeah.
So,
there were cars that did that.
Yeah. When we crossed the street the first time, that was my first confrontation with one of the Islamists. Two girls, I says, two girls were walking by, and I says, have you read Sharia? Are you concerned? Well, they said, we are Muslim. This older gentleman, probably in his 40s, mid 40s, starts saying, Sharia doesn't say those things. I'm like, excuse me. It says I read it right out of here, and it says stop lying, and we were moving at a pretty quick clip, so I couldn't just stick around and have the conversation. That was good.
Right.
So it was a fight, and I'll tell you, I was kind of it was slightly scary, and it was the cool thing that I have to say is I was concerned when we started because Jen had said she asked the police if we could have barricades, if they could use their barricades, and she was told no. She asked the police if she could bring barricades, and they said no.
No.
So as we start our speeches, Antifa comes around the corner and tries to get in our face. So the police had improvised their own makeshift Canadian-style barricade, which was a bike. They sent out, I think there was about 8 or 10 officers right in front of us with their bikes, keeping the bikes between them and us.
Yeah.
And the arrest. Go ahead.
Oh, no, they did try, some tried to go around us and get behind us, but they did, push them back. You got to stay over here. You guys stay here. They stay there. That was pretty good. But go ahead.
One of the things that still bothers me is the police in London, Ontario, really wanted a confrontation. The more I listened to stuff, they wanted a confrontation. They were hoping either we would hit them or we would get hit. And I say that because when you tell the police they're invading your personal space and they're doing nothing, I'm going to keep the police. I'm going to keep the peace. Excuse me. They're pushing their banner onto me. Can you do something? And he really did nothing. I mean,
I felt, I don't know, they were nice, but sometimes some of them I thought, they kind of looked at us funny. Some of them, not all, but to me, when I needed to use the restroom. No, you can't come in here. Go to the park. They have plenty of outhouses there, or whatever they call them, and porta johns, whatever. I'm like, okay, and I found the restroom over at the park, and that's where
by the way,
I saw Auntie.
City Hall. City Hall would not allow people inside to use the bath, the public to use their bathrooms. Oh, my gosh.
They wouldn't let me. So, I mean, I think we killed them with kindness, too, though. In a way. I think some of us, were nice to them. And, of course, we always stood up for the police, no matter what country or what city or whatever. We always stood for the police. So, I mean, they were nice to me, basically, but I wish they could have done more. I wish they could have separated us more. What they should have done, like we do here in America at times, is, one group is on this side of the road and the other group is across the street. And you can scream at each other all you want. But at least then you folks that were speaking could have been heard.
And that would have been simple. I mean, then, the truth of the matter is it would have been a much quieter thing. We would have had our say. We would have gone home pretty quick probably. Yep. And, they would have had their screaming and yelling and drowned out by the cars. And that's about it. I mean, that would have been quick.
Right.
I think we probably would have been home an hour faster. I was surprised the amount of people we met afterwards that were actually with us. Now, we stopped at a place afterwards. Oh, that's a story in itself. When we didn't go that far from the city hall.
No.
And one of the reasons was and we had a problem with another Antifa member trying to block the driver, Jen, who was the leader of PEGIDA, trying to stop her from parking safely. And
right. Well, what happened is I was very, like you, very surprised. I'm like, why are we so close to where we just were? I mean, can't they see us and follow us? Because they can recognize us. But she went to park, and oh my gosh, this is a loading zone only. So she backed up, and when she went to go forward, someone from Antifa was standing right there and blocking her. And so they wouldn't get out of the way. So it's not like some states here in America where if you fear for your life, give it gas, or at least, edge your way out, where she called 911. And so while she was talking to 911, some folks from the restaurant came out, started yelling at the guy. And now I couldn't hear that exchange. I just heard, because we had the windows up. I had the doors locked, windows up. But it's like they must have gotten through to him because he got out of our way. So she went around the block a few times, and then she was able to park, and then we went inside the restaurant.
What it was Mark explained to him the differences between a criminal act and a civil disobedience act. And what he was doing was criminal, and if the police came there, they were going to press charges, and he would be
right.
And Mark had no problem explaining. That's Mark Vandermas we're talking about. They were wonderful hosts. We stayed overnight. They were very, very nice people.
They were wonderful.
We learned a lot the time we were there. I learned a lot about the differences between Canada law and our law. In the United States, when you want to do a protest or something, generally you have to get a permit from the town. In Canada, what we learned in London, Ontario, you don't have to have a permit unless it's in a public park. So that was a surprise for me. I mean, here I was kind of confused. I was thinking, well, you had to do that to get us to be able to do this, and I learned later on that's not true. So finding out those things. So the big success, what we were told afterwards, is that they had a protest in London, Ontario, counter-protest against PEGIDA Canada in their last event, where 500 Antifa annoyance and jerks, I don't know a better description, and Islamists that were there causing trouble. This time, they were down to maybe at the top, maybe 50. So what happened was the people who had come out to support Antifa before realized the majority of these people are idiots. They want violence, and they want to harm people. So they left. They won't come back.
It's like these are college kids wanting to, this is the 60s, man. This is like Vietnam. Well, no, it's not. No, it's not at all. But they can wear their little hoods around their faces, the scarves around their faces, and they can be tough. And sooner or later, somebody tougher they're going to meet up with. So, yeah, those are the ones that were there. There were some elderly there that were blowing the horns, but, they didn't bother me too much. They went home afterwards. But not.
The one person who got hurt, I believe, was an older man too.
Yes.
Yes. I mean, he was hit by one of the Antifa, and that's just sad.
Isn't that? But I read some of the articles from the Canadian newspapers, and they called Antifa in the Communist Party the anti-hate protesters. Did you know that? They are the anti-hate protesters. Yes, I went online. I did some research, Paul. And they're the anti-hate. Yeah, the 500 or so. They sang songs, held drums, circles, chanted slogans.
I didn't hear it.
But
slogans, yeah.
Well, the first one, not the one that we were at, but they chanted slogans such as "Love is louder," "Love trumps hate." It's like, okay, we didn't hear that. We heard a lot of other things.
We heard a lot of hateful, nasty things, profanities, accusations that we were Nazis, Jihad, anything violent you can think of or derogatory was probably said to us. I was just overwhelmed by. I mean, the people who were there on our side were just peaceful people, and And we've learned what a small world it is too afterwards, because Jen Ann, who is a co-host with Damon, who's also on this network, Damon's in Israel and Jen Ann is in Canada. Here we met, and that was a surprise. It's a small world, and you said 6 degrees of separation, right?
Yep, and everyone was friendly. I mean, everyone, actually, when they found out we were Americans, they loved us. I mean, we've been to rallies before, and we say we're Americans. They go, "Oh, thank you for coming to help us. Thank you for joining our fight." I'm like, "Wow, you're welcome." It's.
I mean, we have to, and this is the point why you and I went, is that if Canada falls to this Islamic propaganda, what do we have to the north? We have I mean, that's scary.
Yeah. Yep. And it's you think about what can happen in our country. I mean, we love, if Muslims come over, if anybody comes over to any Canada, America, wonderful, welcome. But please, for example, America, the Constitution is the law, okay, not Sharia. That's where I draw the line. The Constitution is the law of this land. Canada has its own laws, and that's what Jen and those folks were, talking about. They're saying, that one man, he says, "I love Muslims. Muslims can come. That's not the problem." And all they could do is still swear at him and just tell him how he's a Nazi. You were trying to talk to that young man. Did you talk about that? About the young man that you gave the book to?
So I gave at the when we came back after walking, a young gentleman. I met him and I started talking with him, and somebody tried to interfere with our talk, and I offered him my copy of Reliance of the Traveler. I says, look at this, and says, you'll find out what I'm telling you is not a lie. Says, I'm willing to give you my $30 book, and I'll give you I gave my email address. I says, and I'm willing, if you write to me, I'll send you a copy of my book. That's $50. I'm willing to invest in you for you to find the truth. And people were trying to stop us from having a small conversation. He told them to shut up because all I was offering to do was have them learn truth.
Well, right, but at least, even if he didn't believe you in the end, at least he asked and he was civil.
He was polite.
You know what I mean?
It was not typical of any of them. I only met 2 polite people out of all of that mess. 2.
Well, you're lucky. I didn't really meet too many. I met great people on our side, but I'm sorry to say, it was different. I mean, I think the last time I got yelled at was remember we went to the Clinton MCC and we protested Hillary Clinton when she was speaking.
Yeah.
And I had a couple little old ladies look at me, go home. I'm like, whoa. So that was the extreme of what I went through lately. But this was different. This beats it.
I think Americans have protests down. Maybe Canadians don't. I mean, they don't know how to protest safely. It was kind of interesting. I don't know the police know how to deal with it, but it was a surprise.
Well, no, you know what? Honestly, I think it's the council. The committee or the government, the local government there. I think those officials. I think they're the problem. I mean, I'm looking at this. News article that I'm reading, and it was like, though he voted in support of the motion that took aim at hate and bigotry in the city, Squire said the situation escalated when some councilors started urging the public to go to the first rally or attend it themselves. I mean, they wanted trouble, pretty much.
And that's the truth. We're at the end of the show, Helen. I want to say thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
It's been great. Thank you for sharing the truth about what we heard, and it was a little scary. I won't deny that at all. At the same time, it was
but we survived.
Yes, we did.
We survived.
Well, thank you for calling in. I'm glad that you came to share. We'll see you soon.
And thank you. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye. It's